Can you believe that we are already in the fifth month of this year? I feel like it's been like 6 years since 2025 started. If you are just joining me or you're watching this on a replay, definitely hit the subscribe button, like this live stream so it can be shared out to a lot more people and we can get the conversation going in the chat. I have so many stories that we need to talk about this morning. We are in what I call week 5. Okay, so we have been doing live streams. I have been doing them here with you for 5 weeks, meaning this is week 5. And I'm so excited. There is a fly in my house. So if you see me trying to swat it, this is why. But I'm really excited because a lot of times people get on social media and they kind of fizzle out, and I am trying to power through and make sure that I am staying consistent. So I'm so glad when everybody joins my live stream and I'm able to talk with you, because that means that we are doing this together, and we are building this sort of shared community chat online live. And now we're in week 5, day 1 of week 5. So let's go. Also, you have to tell me while I'm getting this prepared for you. What are you eating? What is your menu today for Cinco de Mayo? I'm going to start off with something that I thought was hilarious, okay? And you may not have seen this. I screenshotted this from TikTok, okay? This is from Pretty in Punk. That's the user's name. And if you haven't seen this, it says, this week's true player, Moskowitz, okay? This guy is on fire when he is speaking in his committee meetings. And if you notice, it says Signalgate on his tie. If you didn't see all the little text messages from Signalgate, one of them was this: fist bump, American flag, and flames for fire. And it is, if you notice, on his tie. He's trolling with his clothing, the Signalgate players. Now, let me just say, those people should have been fired already. The fact that they haven't been fired already is so telling. It was how many people? I think there was like 14 or so people on this Signalgate chat, with Pete Hegseth being the person who was putting all of the information of like the Yemen mission out there to be, I don't know, responded to by all these people in the administration, but also seen by the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. Yeah. So if you didn't see this, this is like prime time trolling by Moskowitz. The Signalgate fist bump emojis on his tie during the hearing. I thought that was amazing. Now, let me just say that this is just like little subtle things that Democrats are doing that I find just to be amazing and fantastic. But there's also a lot of things that just don't make a lot of sense. This is from today, I believe. I actually just screenshotted this before coming on. It says, Trump administration says it'll pay immigrants in the US illegally $1,000 to leave the country. And to me, I say this: what are you going to pay all the legal citizens to stay? Because where is this money coming from? Where do they have $1,000 to pay everybody to leave? I just don't understand where the coffers are. Is this money that they've gotten from selling the gold card? Is that where it's from? Aria, how are you? I just don't understand where they're getting this money from. Because if we have $1,000 to pay people, then I'm pretty sure that I want to see that there's like some sort of waste, fraud, and abuse committee who has been looking at this. Because if we've had this $1,000 all this time, why have we not been using it for better things? Chef Bezos is here and says, literally take a fraction off of your defense budget and you can pay it. I mean, yes, except for the fact that they have proposed, I believe recently, he proposed like $1 trillion defense budget. And like I said, there is a fly in here. And if you see me swatting it, that's why. But yeah, I agree that there is money in that defense budget that is astronomical, that could pay to get people off the streets, to get, food into starving children's bellies, to get all the things. And yes, Brandon, you have a very good point. Why don't we talk to the previous administration about certain things? Absolutely. And the administration before that, and Ronald Reagan's administration. There are so many things that kind of compound over time that obviously it is not one man's fault. But this proposal is coming from his administration, and that's why we're talking about it today. Because my friends, I know that you know that we talk about what we can talk about today. Because if we continue the blame game, then that's all we have. We just have people saying, well, look over there. Look over there. That's that guy's problem, when we know that today is what we are about. We can only deal with today. And today, he's proposing $1,000 for every US or for every illegal person in the US to just leave and we'll pay you. Like, okay, I don't know where that money is coming from. But if you do, let me know in the comments. I think this is not a good strategy. I think this is not a winning message that, okay, you're not leaving on your own. Okay, please, 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 leave, leave, leave. We'll pay you to leave. It looks like a begging sort of strategy. But anyways, if you see this, this is what it's from. I also wanted to point out this article. If you're on LinkedIn, this is from, sorry, let me point out who the author is, Dr. Gregory King, and it is called Universities Are Being Forced to Scrub DEI from Their Websites, but Not from Their Athletic Teams. It is a very, very interesting take, and I think that it is very accurate. It says, scrub from the website, not from the roster. The hypocrisy of DEI backlash in higher education. And I want to show you, this is the guy. Oh, it kind of cuts him off, but this is the guy's profile on LinkedIn. And oh my gosh, all of my little screenshots are very, very poorly displayed here. But let me just tell you, this sort of idea of what he's saying here is very accurate. If you watched all of the college basketball, all of the college football championships, like all of that, they might have said, hey, you know, on the university website at Columbia, like we're gonna change things because Donald Trump doesn't want DEI to be represented for our university. But DEI inclusion is a lot of what student athletes look for. Because when I went to University of Oregon, this was many, many years ago, and and I'm just catching up to your comments. Hey, it's Phil says, God bless your president doing real things. I mean, and then there's an LMAO. Yes, okay, we can argue. LOL. Of course, I believe that people have strong feelings on both sides of the aisle. And even in between, there are a lot of independents who are very strongly worded these days. And yeah, we can all disagree on, you know, not being able to agree. But this is a very interesting topic because the DEI efforts, and I was talking about my experience and as an undergrad at University of Oregon, I was a cheerleader, and as just random little parts of that sort of aspect of being a cheerleader, we would participate in recruiting as far as like the recruiting days. Okay, so we would go and be sort of like representative of like the people on campus when they would, you know, different college athletes from high schools, you know, seniors would come to do their recruiting visits. And I participated at certain athletic dinners where there were a lot of coaches and a lot of teachers and a lot of students and a lot of, you know, faculty, all the things. And as a student athlete myself, there were moments where I just thought, gosh, you know, they wanted representation at the table. I was the only Black cheerleader during a few of the years that I was there, okay? They wanted for those athletes to see that there was representation at the table. So not only do I think that this is very valid, but it is crucial to those athletic programs' recruiting efforts, that they show these student athletes that on campus, there are people like you. On campus, you won't just feel isolated and only be able to hang out with your, you know, athletic group, but you'll be able to flourish amongst everybody because we have things here, whether it's, you know, groups or organizations or student-run programs, whatever, fraternities, sororities, all the things that will help you be able to settle in to our university environment. And there are a lot of student athletes who do not go to schools that they don't feel welcome at. They don't feel like they're actually represented at. And this, while they're taking it out of the sort of mission, vision values of certain colleges and universities, they're not taking it out of this sort of recruiting process for these student athletes. And the reason why they're not doing that is because it benefits them financially. And if you want to argue with that in the comments, go right ahead. But that is definitely the biggest reason why they're not taking it out of the recruiting process for these student athletes, because they're making too much money off of them. If you want to take the DEI out of certain programs and out of certain college, websites and departments and things like that, that department probably doesn't make them any more money than a student athlete's presence on campus, their jerseys, their merchandise, their being a part of a billboard campaign. All of that outweighs for a university's decision on DEI when it comes to the athletes. They're not going to take it out, and I don't think that's coming out anytime soon. If you're just joining me, thank you so much. My name is Dr. Sandra Colton-Medici. I do this live stream Monday through Friday in the mornings, and I also have a Substack that's in the description. If you want to go to the description, join me on Substack, because I do a live stream on Substack every evening, Monday through Friday as well. Like this live stream if you haven't already, because that definitely sends it out to more people and it helps us stay having the conversation going. If you haven't seen this, Trump says he will reopen Alcatraz prison. Alcatraz has been closed for, I don't know, 30 years, 40 years. I mean, it has been closed for a long time. It is a tourist attraction. It is uninhabitable at this point, and apparently there are ghosts. Like, there are ghosts of Al Capone. I have no idea what is going through this man's head, except for the fact that he's throwing spaghetti on the wall. And I think that this is either partially decline, right? Senior decline, or he really, really, really needs a distraction, okay? He really, really, really needs for there to be a distraction away from Kilmar Abrego Garcia, away from U.S. Citizens being deported. And I don't even like that idea of deportation for a U.S. citizen. I don't even know what that is. Being sent away, right? For the decline of the stock market, for market manipulation, for all the things, taking us out of, all of these different sort of accords. I forget if it's the WHO and shutting down USAID, like all of the things. He needs a massive distraction. And why not just throw out Alcatraz? Now, I know that there are plenty of prisons that we have in the United States. And that's why a lot of people are saying, hey, if we don't have due process for these people and we're sending them to El Salvador, don't we have prisons right here? Like, don't we have that facility to house violent criminals if they are who you say they are? But no, we need to open up that one that's part of the main attraction of a movie in the middle of San Francisco Bay, like, woo! It's like a bright, shiny light over here, so you don't look over here. It's fantastic, though. It's quite fantastic. Almost as fantastic as this sort of distraction, because I showed it to my husband because he's way more of a Star Wars fan than I am. And after the Pope picture, his sort of AI Pope imagery, this came out. My husband tells me right away, why does he have the red lightsaber if he's trying to pretend that he's so good for America? Like, why does he have the red one? Because basically he's part of the evil side of Star Wars. Now, I don't know all the correct terminology. You can feel free to leave it in the comments if you know it, because I am not an expert. But apparently this is the wrong take. Now, when you think about AI doing what you ask it to do, someone actually prompted AI to generate this image. And I am assuming that they showed this to Donald Trump before they posted it, because this cannot go out without his approval. I just can't. And if he said, yeah, sure, go ahead and post that right after the Pope, right after the image of the Pope. Thank you, sure enough. Red means bad. Red means bad. Why? Why, when you're trying to say that you are like Jesus, are you going to be part of the red team? It's just not a good look. And if he thought that this was a good look, he knows that this is another distraction technique. It's not anything having to do with, hey, we love Star Wars, hey, blah, blah. It's really just about, hey, look at me. Hey, look at me. It's almost like, you know how he's trying to say about education? He's trying to say that let me try to make sure that my notifications, I forgot to turn those off. My apologies. That he was trying to say that we should certify more children in this sort of AI education. And yet he doesn't even understand, if he's trying to portray himself as the good guy, he doesn't even understand how to do it. And the people on his team don't either. That's really, really pathetic. All right, so let's go to something that I thought was really very interesting. And this is apparently about your new job and your kids' new jobs and your family's generational job, according to the US Secretary of Commerce. The new model is factory jobs for life. For life. You, your kids, and your grandkids, everybody gets a factory job. So if you were wondering what you're going to be doing for the next few years of your life, he already just told you. It's you in a factory. Does that sound good to you? I'm not sure that sounds good to me. And I certainly do not want my children to think of that as one of their aspirations, is to go for life. Not just for a day, for a year, for 2 years to get an experience. No, for life in a factory. And that their kids, they want everybody to aspire to have their kids work in factories too. Now, the problem with this idea is that the factory jobs that they're saying are overseas and somewhere else, those jobs aren't going to be there either. Okay, so a lot of people are working in factories, let's say in China, in India, in Vietnam, all of these other countries. But those jobs will become automated at some point. So if we think that we're going to bring these sort of factory jobs to the United States, in several years, just like AI is potentially putting certain industries out of business, not all, but some, they are going to put those factory jobs out of business too. And I know a lot of people will say, but that's quite a ways off. Well, then why build those factories for humans to work in instead of building those factories to just be able to do those things automated or automatically? Okay. Charles says, what is your idea of getting new jobs? Talk is cheap. I am not in the space of creating policy. These guys are. Okay, so my ideas of getting a new job, I don't need to get a new job for myself because I have multiple jobs. Okay, but when we think about bringing factories here and having those create jobs for people, Charles, I know that you want to argue in my comments with me, but I know that we can see eye to eye on something. So I'm just going to befriend you at this point. I'm not complaining about anything. I'm giving you the exact quotes from people who are actually in government telling you what they think that you should do with your life. Now, the other day, Donald Trump was saying, hey, these tariffs are going to be good. These tariffs are going to be good. And then he came back and said, well, your kids aren't going to be able to have so many toys. And those toys that they do get, those 2 toys are going to be a little more expensive. So when they know what they are doing is actually detrimental to our US economy, you kind of have to wonder. And Charles is asking me in the questions, he's basically saying, hey, you don't offer any alternatives. And you know what? I'm not in government. So for me, I'm not a policymaker, and I actually don't have to offer any alternatives. I have to gauge what they're saying and see if it's right for me in my life. And you can do the same for you in your life, right? So if somebody's saying factory jobs is what we are going to give you, and you are going to love it, and you're going to take it, and then your kids too, I'm saying no. I'm saying that's not how it's going to go down. And that's my right to do. And it's actually your right to do too, to say, this is bullshit. This idea of factory jobs for you, your kids, and your grandkids for life is bullshit. And you know why? Because most people, not saying that factory jobs are bad, but for me, my lived experience and what I want for my children and for their children is not to work in factories for the rest of their life. And I don't think that a lot of people would choose to work in factories for life. They might choose to work in factories because their dad worked in a factory and they want to, do that sort of thing like their dad did. But that doesn't mean that they choose it for their life, for their kids' lives, or for their grandkids' lives. That's just assuming that nothing will change in 3 generations. Nestle Snipes says, bringing jobs to Americans is what's right for us. Absolutely. But what I want you to think about is the fact that the automated jobs that are happening in factories overseas will really take out a lot of the population in time to make most of those jobs automated. So if we're going to bring back some sort of jobs or even factories to the United States to do those jobs that people overseas are doing, in time, those automated jobs are going to take over for the people that are working in those factories. And that's what I want people to remember, is that we have outsourced a lot of what we are doing with manufacturing. And if we bring that back, yes, it could create jobs. And it actually has been done. I think it was Louis Vuitton who actually had a factory. I think it was in like Indiana or Kentucky, one of the two. And the workers there that were doing the work were not the skilled artisans that they had in different places in Italy and France and all of these other places. So the quality of the work was not up to the standard of that, I think it was Louis Vuitton factory. So when people were coming back with whatever the sort of complaints were, blah, 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 it was about the workers here in the United States. So if we have factories coming here, whether it's different companies from across the pond coming here and making a factory and then hiring US workers, the sort of pool of US workers with that specific skill is not at a high level like it is in some other parts of the world. So we have to think about, if we even brought, factories here, the people who would have to be trained to do those specific jobs who already don't have that specific skill is a lot. Okay, so it would be a lot of workers that have to be trained to do those specific jobs. Now, the time to build the factory, the time to actually train the workers, yes, that's going to take a lot of time. And if we do that, I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I'm just saying that by the time that those factories get built and by the time that those workers get trained, automation will have evolved even further. And so if we don't actually build those warehouses or those factories for the future of that specific manufacturing that they're doing, let's say here in the US, then we have basically created a factory, trained the workers, and then hired the workers to then fire the workers, right? Because then the automation will kick in. That's all I'm saying. And so I don't have a specific sort of solution because I don't work to provide those solutions. I do bring you this news. And I want you to use your critical thinking and your skills to understand how it would affect you if this guy came to you and said, you're going to start working in a factory. I don't care what your kids want to do. They're going to work in a factory too. And I don't care what their kids want to do. Your grandkids are going to work in a factory too. Now, how much are they paying for this factory job? A lot of people would consider that. They would say, hey, I don't know, if they're going to give me a job, how much does it pay? Okay. And how much am I supposed to be? How many hours of my time do I have to devote to this factory job? Because maybe the pay is worth it. But is it worth it for us to generationally decide what our grandkids and where our grandkids are going to be working? I don't think so. I think Shonaf says, we have the highest rate of brain cancer where I live because of the plants. I mean, there are side effects, right? Anybody who was watching Aaron Brockovich, the movie, even if you didn't follow the actual story, that, there's a lot of side effects that go into that. The only thing we get out of this is pollution, he says. We want them to wake up terrified, says Jeff, quote from Jeff. I have not seen that quote. Very interesting. Well, let's keep going because this is something that I wanted to bring your attention to because I had not seen this. If you're just watching for the first time, you just logged in, or you're watching on a replay, definitely hit the like button on this live stream so it can be shared out. We can bring the conversation to more people. And also subscribe if you haven't already. Six Flags announces plans to permanently shut down theme park after 25 years. And I believe it says Maryland. I don't know if you live in Maryland. Have you been to this Six Flags? and says it's going to close down after the season. So November 2nd, 2025, that's when they're actually shutting it down. And I just feel like, there's a lot of people talking about empty shelves are coming, the recession indicators are there. Donald Trump is talking about drill, baby, drill, except for, the gas prices that he's talking about. I'm not feeling them out here in California because he's talking about 198 or something per gallon. We have like $5 gallons of gas here. So I'm not feeling that sort of drop in gas prices. But whenever we have all these certain topics, there's no ships in the ports, there's, shelves are going to start looking pretty bare, you won't be able to get blah, blah, blah. We already had the egg sort of crisis meltdown. And now they're going to take away the fun. So when you look at this article, they're talking about their sort of review. It says, quote, as a review of our comprehensive, our park portfolio, we have determined that Six Flags America and Hurricane Harbor are not a strategic fit with the company's long-term growth plan. Okay, after reviewing a number of options, we believe that marketing the property for redevelopment will generate the highest value and return on investment. Now, I'm not quite sure how big this park is, but Six Flags, when I've gone to Six Flags here, I think it's Santa Clarita. We used to go to Great America when I lived in Northern California. These are massive properties. So the fact that they have decided to close it, that they're thinking that they want to get more money, more bang for their buck, is very, very good for them and their portfolio. But it's also taking away some of the fun from that particular area. Now, maybe it's a rundown version of Six Flags. I have never been to the one in Maryland, but it's at a time where everybody is tightening their purses, they're tightening their wallets, they're trying to get the most bang out of their buck because they feel the crunch. And if you don't find this to be a recession indicator, I don't know what is, because a lot of people have been talking about the bonds that I believe Japan is holding, and that was one of the things that they were threatening to sell off. Melissa said, I did actually look for factory jobs when I was young, and I just needed to work. There were none, but you don't want to plan that as your future when automation is taking over. That's what I'm saying. Automation is going, if you haven't seen that video, and I just cut myself off, but if you haven't seen that video, it's of Amazon, and it's about the Amazon sort of automation arms and pickers that they have. Like, the people are going to be obsolete very, very soon. I don't give it 10 years before the factories that Amazon has where there's pickers, the people who are going to be in there, they're going to be supervisors. It's going to be supervisors. It's not going to be all the things. Now, will the drivers still need to be around? Absolutely. I mean, they might, change all their vehicles to being like green emissions and blah, blah, blah. But people actually walking your package to the door, I think that's not going to go away for some time, just because apartments and houses have different sorts of drop-off points. Now, maybe the drop-off points for Amazon, maybe they stop going to your door. I think that's one of their biggest selling points is, click and it shows up. But there are Amazon pickup points. Maybe that's just what they do now. And then they get rid of having to do all of the sort of drop-offs, and they get rid of the drivers. A lot of the drivers have been striking recently over the Christmas holiday. I don't know if you remember that. Let's see. Melissa said, these jobs are hard on the body as service positions like retail. This is exactly that. I think that there's a lot of people that forget how hard factory jobs are. Just like the coal miners. Like, coal miners have been doing this for generations. It's hard. That's why a lot of people don't do it. It is hard to be away from your family. It's hard to be down in the middle of the earth somewhere, wherever they're digging. It is toxic. These people, some of them have health conditions because of that job. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this. But like I said, they're taking away the fun because they want to redevelop the property. I don't know what they're going to put on the property. Maybe it'll be a hotel, maybe it'll be apartment complexes, maybe it'll be a housing community of like model homes, who knows? But that's more lucrative than providing this sort of attraction. I don't know how much it's costing them to have it right now, but it is what it is. Now, I wanted to bring you to another part, which I actually looked up yesterday, day before. This is LinkedIn. And I happened to look up LinkedIn and the White House. It says District of Columbia, 80,000 followers, 1 to 5,000 employees. And the reason that this made me chuckle, okay, number one, I looked at the jobs tab and it says, oop, there are no jobs right now. And I thought that was very interesting because we know that there are jobs. There are jobs in government, but they're not exactly posting them. Now, that's not a crime because a lot of people don't post their jobs on LinkedIn, especially on their profile page. But then it got a little interesting. So if you look here, this is on the About tab, and it says, the golden age of America begins right now. Now, if you are doing LinkedIn and you are a government agency or even the White House verified account, don't you think you'd want to put some sort of historical fact about the White House in the About section instead of just your sort of marketing, the golden age of America? That's their sort of tagline. I think it is definitely poor planning for a digital director for the Trump administration not to give the LinkedIn page any information about the White House. Because you could say 47 presidents, or not 47, 46 presidents have occupied the White House or whatever, however many have actually lived in the White House, because obviously it hasn't existed for the entirety of the presidency. But let me just say, this does not do it. It does not do it. And for anybody who is really, really excited about this whole like idea of putting America is back, right? Let's just have a conversation about not erasing history. And if you want to take away everything in the Smithsonian, everything that's happening over there, and just put something in the About section, that's like the bare minimum. The bare minimum of just giving people information about the White House. I'm just saying. This is something that I saw and I just kind of couldn't get over. That, like, why are we doing this? Why aren't we actually telling people more about the White House? All right, let's go to one other thing that I thought was very interesting, which is Michelle Obama. She has, this is an article from Fortune. It's from May 2nd, and it's talking about Gen Z. Okay, she's giving this sort of moment in her podcast where she says, Michelle Obama warns Gen Z students, don't let the Ivy League scam you. Okay, let me just give you one of the quotes here. She studied sociology at Princeton in the 80s, later propelled her to Harvard Law School, and eventually became a healthcare executive before pushing into the public eye as First Lady. Okay, a lot of people don't know all that about her. They just think, oh, she's Barack Obama's wife. Yeah, she's very smart. Okay, so she talks about, as of late, the value of higher education has come into question thanks in part to the rising cost of tuition, fears of artificial intelligence, and a less than ideal job market. Okay, and there's a lot of things about this that I feel like are very important. It says, nevertheless, Obama's views on education have been unwavering, and while she admitted a traditional four-year degree is not the path for everyone, continuing education after high school is paramount, like a community college or a trade school. Trade schools right now, if you want to learn a skill at a trade school, I would say go do it. You might be, this is the quote, you might be dreaming of becoming a doctor or a teacher, maybe a mechanic or a software designer, or you might not know what you want to do right now. And that's fine, she said, as basically trying to tell you like your path can be undetermined, okay? Quote, but no matter what path you choose, no matter what dreams you have got to do whatever it takes to continue your education after high school. And when she's talking about making sure that it's not a scam, it's basically that you don't get pushed into this sort of other category, right? Ivy League schools are inherently exclusive, right? Whether it's because of the sort of education, sorry, there's a fly in here that I am battling, you guys. Because of these sort of education standards, as far as like the strictness of the like, test scores, or whether it's like people, basically thinking that you don't belong there and giving you sort of a hard time of like, oh, well, you were just handpicked because of what you look like or what your background is or whatever. Don't let people trick you into believing that you don't belong in these institutions. And that was really what her message was. I think a lot of people get into places and they don't feel welcome. They don't feel like they belong. And that's what she was trying to get at is you make your own path. You take up your own space. And whether you are a first-year student or a four-year student, you're in your senior year, do you is what she's getting at. Do you. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't worry about what other people are saying. Focus on your studies, your time there, and taking up your own space. Let me see here. I think I missed a lot of comments. Sally says, the word factory is different. I work for GM. I'm an electrician. I technology work in a factory, but robots do all the work. These jobs will be different. They will be different. Exactly. And I think that the idea that we are going to, because obviously you guys are excited about this conversation, the idea that we are not focused on bringing factories here and making them optimized for the future versus just, hey, we need those jobs back. The jobs are not going to be the same. The jobs are not going to be the same as what they're doing in other countries right now because the technology will have advanced. By the time they build those factories, they're not going to be building them for humans to work in there the same way that humans are working right now. They're going to be building them for the automated pickers, like I said, at Amazon, or for all the things to be done for, I would say, at least 50% less of what the humans are doing in India and China and Vietnam. They will evolve. And that's what we should be building for, is not for the here and the now, because once they're done and ready, the here and the now will have passed us by. There are so many things that I would love to still talk about, but we have run out of time. So please do me a favor, subscribe to my channel, join me tomorrow morning and the rest of the mornings of the week. The best thing I can ask you right now is, what is on your Cinco de Mayo menu? What are you eating today in celebration of Cinco de Mayo? Because why not? Live it up a little bit, right? Get a little margarita, have a little chimichanga, whatever it is that you are eating today. I want to know what your menu is. Put it in the comments. And then I always ask too, where are you joining me from? I forgot to ask this at the beginning. So what part of the country or the world, what country are you logging in from today onto YouTube? And also, if you haven't subscribed, definitely do this. Subscribe to my channel, it's free. And also, share this live stream if you can. I don't know if you have any other social media platforms, but I would love it if you would share it out, and like it if you found this to be a good conversation. I love you guys. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you if you join my Substack live stream tonight around 9:30-ish p.m. Pacific time. So I will see you over there, or I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning.